The Alchemy of Solitude, a Jungian journey to selfhood prologue, the silent call of solitude in the quiet corners of existence, where the clamor of the world fades into a distant hum. A particular archi emerges, an ache not of the body, but of the soul. It is a profound existential longing that accompanies solitude, a sensation that feels like a glitch in the fabric of life itself. We are born into a world teeming with human connection, surrounded by voices, faces, and the constant pulse of interaction. Yet, for many, there comes a time when this connection recedes, leaving us adrift in a sea of silence. The stillness becomes oppressive, a weight pressing against the chest, and in its depths, a question surfaces. Why me? Why am I alone? This question, raw and piercing, often carries the sting of abandonment. The fear of being forgotten while others thrive in a world of laughter, love, and belonging. But what if this solitude is not a mistake, not a punishment, but a sacred invitation? What if being alone, truly and undeniably alone, is not a detour from life's path, but a crucial chapter in the unfolding story of the self? Carl Jung, one of the most profound psychological thinkers of the modern era, saw solitude not as a state to be feared or pitied, but as a sacred spacer crucible for transformation, a portal to self-discovery. To Jung, these moments of deep aloneness were not random or meaningless. They were initiations, deliberate calls from the unconscious to confront the truth of who we are. Far from being a rejection by life, solitude is a preparation, a refining fire that burns away illusion to reveal the authentic self beneath. This exploration delves into the profound significance of solitude through a Jungian lens, expanding the narrative into a comprehensive journey that weaves together Jung's theories of the collective unconscious, the shadow, individuation, and the transformative power of silence. Solitude, as we will discover, is not an absence, but a presence, a mirror that reflects the unfiltered self, a wilderness where the soul finds its voice. This narrative is an invitation to embrace the silence, to step into the fire of solitude, and to emerge transformed, not as a fragment of who you were, but as the whole, authentic self you were always meant to become. Through this journey, we will explore the psychological, spiritual, and practical dimensions of solitude, uncovering its role as a catalyst for growth, a teacher of resilience, and a guide to a life of meaning and purpose. Chapter 1. The Nature of Solitude, the Ache and the Invitation. Solitude begins with an ache, a quiet but persistent discomfort that feels unnatural in a world designed for connection. We are social creatures, wired for relationships, for the exchange of ideas, emotions, and experiences. Yet, there are moments when the world seems to turn away, leaving us in a stillness that can feel suffocating. The silence grows heavy, the absence of voices deafening, and the isolation can seem like a personal failing, sign that we are unwanted, unworthy, or forgotten. This perception, so common in moments of loneliness, is where the misunderstanding of solitude begins. Society teaches us to view aloneness as a problem to be solved, a void to be filled with noise, activity, or connection. But Jung saw solitude differently, not as a failure, but as a sacred condition, a necessary prelude to the deeper work of self-discovery. Jung's philosophy rested on the belief that the human psyche is a complex interplay of conscious and unconscious forces, a dynamic system seeking balance and wholeness. The collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of human experience, contains archetypes, universal patterns that shape our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Among these archetypes, the journey of individuation stands out as the process of integrating these forces to become a fully realized self. Solitude, in Jung's view, is the crucible where this integration begins. It is not a punishment, but an invitation, a call to turn inward and confront the parts of ourselves we have ignored, suppressed, or forgotten. The ache of solitude, then, is not a sign of rejection, but a signal that something deeper is stirring. It is the voice of the unconscious, whispering for attention, demanding that we pause and listen. In a world that celebrates constant motion and less notifications, packed schedules, and superficial connection, solitude feels like an anomaly. But it is precisely in this stillness that the unconscious speaks most clearly, offering insights, memories, and truths that cannot be heard amidst the noise. The figure standing alone, gazing into the silence, is not abandoned but chosen by their own psyche to undertake a journey of transformation. This chapter sets the stage for our exploration, framing solitude as a sacred threshold rather than a curse. We will delve into the psychological and spiritual significance of aloneness, drawing on Jung's insights to reframe the experience as a necessary condition for growth. The figure in solitude, like the figure at the center of the stone wheel in our earlier narrative, is a protagonist in their own story, standing at the edge of a wilderness where the self awaits discovery. As we move forward, we will explore the stages of this journey, from the initial discomforts to the profound awakening that solitude can bring. Chapter 2. The Crucible of Silence. The confrontation with the self. The journey into solitude begins with discomfort. A confrontation with the self that can feel like drowning in one's own mind. When the distractions of the world fall away, when the phone stops ringing, the invitations cease, and the noise fades, the mind grows louder. Thoughts long buried rise to the surface. Insecurities, once ignored, become deafening. Regrets, fears, and suppressed emotions bubble up like ghosts, demanding to be seen. This is the crucible of solitude, the moment when the self is laid bare, and the work of transformation begins. Jung called this process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming one's authentic self. It is not a comfortable process. It is in fact often agonizing. The layers of identity we have built, shaped by societal expectations, family roles, or cultural norms, begin to peel away, revealing the raw, unfiltered self beneath. This self is not the polished version we present to the world, nor the fragmented self we have accepted as truth. It is something deeper, more honest, and often more frightening. In solitude, we are forced to confront the truth. The life we have built may not be ours. The person we have been may not be our true self. This confrontation is where most people falter. The intensity of solitude can feel overwhelming, leading many to seek escape in distractions, social media, new relationships, or endless activity. But those who remain, who sit with the discomfort and face what they have been avoiding, begin a profound journey. Jung believes that the unconscious mind becomes more accessible in solitude, speaking not in words but in feelings, dreams, and sudden insights. These are not random. They are messages from the deeper self, guiding us toward wholeness. The crucible of silence is also where Jung's concept of the shadow comes into play. The shadow is the part of the psyche we reject, the traits we dislike, the emotions we suppress, the truths we deny. In solitude, the shadow steps forward, revealing anger we didn't know we held, sadness we've kept locked away, or fears we've refused to acknowledge. This encounter can be overwhelming, but it is also essential. Integrating the shadow, making peace with these rejected parts, is the key to becoming whole. Solitude provides the arena for this work, a space where we can reclaim ourselves, piece by painful piece. This chapter explores the psychological dynamics of solitude, drawing on Jung's theories to illuminate the transformative power of silence. We will examine the role of the shadow, the process of individuation, and the courage required to face the self without distraction. The figure in solitude, standing alone in the wilderness of their own mind, is not a victim but a seeker, embarking on a journey that will redefine their relationship with themselves and the world. Chapter 3. The Alchemy of Solitude. The transformation within solitude is not a passive state. It is an active process, a form of psychological alchemy that transforms silence into selfhood. Like a seed pushing through the soil, this transformation is slow, gradual, and often painful. It begins in darkness, with the pressure of confronting buried truths. But as we engage with the silence, something begins to stir. The ache of loneliness gives way to a deeper awareness, a sense of presence that allows us to hear our true voice beneath the noise. Jung's concept of individuation is central to this process. To individuate is to become whole, to integrate the conscious and unconscious aspects of the self into a cohesive identity. This is not about achieving perfection, but about embracing the totality of who we are: light and shadow, strength and vulnerability. In solitude, the external influences that shape our identity's expectations, cultural norms, or the need for approval fall away, leaving us face to face with the unfiltered self. This encounter can be terrifying, but it is also liberating, offering the chance to rediscover passions, dreams, and truths we have long buried. The alchemy of solitude requires active participation. It is not enough to simply sit in silence and wait for revelation. We must engage with ourselves, listening to the thoughts we've ignored, feeling the emotions we've numbed, and confronting the truths we've avoided. This process is messy, full of grief, rage, and unexpected beauty. It cannot be rushed or forced. It demands patience, presence, and courage. As we sit with the discomfort, we begin to forgive not just others, but ourselves. We let go of the narratives that have kept us stuck. I'm not enough. I'm too broken. No one will understand me. These stories lose their grip when we face them head-on, revealing the truth beneath. This chapter delves into the transformative process of solitude, exploring how silence becomes a catalyst for self-discovery. We will examine the stages of individuation, from the initial confrontation with the shadow to the emergence of a clearer, more authentic self. Practical strategies for engaging with solitude, journaling, meditation, creative expression will be offered, providing tools for navigating this inner wilderness. The figure in solitude, like the alchemist in their chamber, is not merely enduring the silence, but transforming it, forging a new self from the raw materials of their psyche. Chapter 4. The shadows embrace integrating the unseen. At the heart of solitude lies the shadow, the hidden reservoir of our fears, desires, and suppressed truths. Jung described the shadow as everything we have pushed away about ourselves, the traits we dislike, the emotions we bury, the aspects of our identity we refuse to acknowledge. In the noise of everyday life, the shadow remains hidden, masked by distractions and social roles. But in solitude, it steps forward, demanding to be seen. This encounter with the shadow is one of the most challenging aspects of solitude. It can manifest as anger we didn't know we held, sadness we've kept locked away, or fears we've refused to face. These emotions can feel overwhelming, like a tidal wave threatening to engulf us. But Jung taught that the shadow is not an enemy. It is a messenger guiding us toward wholeness. To integrate the shadow is to make peace with these rejected parts, to recognize that they are not flaws but essential components of our humanity. The process of shadow work requires courage and compassion. It involves listening to the emotions we've suppressed, acknowledging the truths we've denied, and accepting the parts of ourselves we've deemed unworthy. This is not about erasing the shadow, but about embracing it, understanding that our flaws and vulnerabilities are as much a part of us as our strengths. In solitude, we have the space to do this work, to sit with our pain and learn from it, rather than running from it. This chapter explores the role of the shadow in solitude, drawing on Jung's theories to illuminate its transformative potential. We will examine how the shadow manifests in isolation, the challenges of confronting it, and the rewards of integration. Practical exercises, such as reflective writing and dream analysis, will be offered to help readers engage with their shadow consciously. The figure in solitude, facing their shadow in the mirror of silence, is not breaking but becoming, forging a stronger, more authentic self through the act of embrace. Chapter 5. The sacred fire. Finding meaning in the pain. The pain of solitude is not senseless. It is sacred. Like a fire that burns away illusion, it strips away the false to reveal the true. This pain is not a punishment, but a purification, a process that clears the fog of distraction and exposes the raw truth of who we are. In the quiet of solitude, we confront the life we have built, the choices we have made, and the identities we have adopted. Often, we discover that these are not truly ours, but reflections of external expectations or fears. Jung understood that real peace comes not from avoiding pain, but from understanding it. When we sit with our discomfort, listening to its lessons, it loses its power to control us. The pain of solitude becomes a teacher, guiding us toward clarity and authenticity. We begin to see which relationships were built on fear or obligation, which choices were made to please others, and which parts of ourselves we have abandoned. In this recognition, we find the opportunity to reclaim our lives, not the lives others expected, but the ones that feel authentically ours. This sacred fire is also where we rediscover our passions, dreams, and truths. In the absence of external noise, we hear the voice of our inner child, the curious, playful, creative self that existed before the world imposed its rules. We remember dreams we left behind, not because they were impossible, but because they didn't fit the mold. In solitude, these dreams become necessary again. Urgent calls to live a life aligned with our deepest values. This chapter explores the transformative power of pain in solitude, framing it as a sacred fire that refines rather than destroys. We will examine how discomfort becomes a catalyst for growth, how it burns away illusion to reveal truth, and how it opens the door to rediscovery. Practical strategies for embracing pain such as mindfulness, expressive arts, and spiritual practices will be offered, providing tools for navigating this fiery process. The figure in solitude, standing in the flames, is not consumed but refined, emerging with a clarity and strength that can only be forged in the fire. Chapter 6. The return. Bringing the self to the world. The journey through solitude does not end in isolation. It culminates in a return to the world, transformed. The figure who has faced their shadow, integrated their unconscious, and emerged whole does not return as the same person. They carry a quiet strength, a rootedness, born from their time in the wilderness of the self. But this return is not without challenges. The world they left behind may no longer fit, and the people in it may not know how to respond to the changed self. Jung believed that individuation is incomplete until the transformed self is brought back into the world. Transformation that remains locked in the mind or heart is not transformation at all. It must be lived. This means navigating the dissonance between the new self and the old world, where relationships, routines, and priorities may feel misaligned. The figure who has passed through solitude craves depth, sincerity, and purpose, and this can make them feel like a stranger in their own life. Yet this dissonance is also an opportunity. The transformed self moves through the world with intention, choosing relationships and activities that align with their truth. They learn to set boundaries, not out of defensiveness, but out of reverence for their own needs. They speak less, but with more meaning, and their presence becomes a quiet light, a gift to others. This is the alchemy of solitude. It not only transforms the individual, but also allows them to become a mirror for others, reflecting the possibility of depth and authenticity. This chapter explores the process of returning from solitude, drawing on Jung's insights to navigate the challenges of reintegration. We will examine how the transformed self interacts with the world, how to maintain authenticity in the face of external pressures, and how to embody the lessons of solitude in everyday life. Practical strategies for living authentically, such as setting boundaries, cultivating meaningful relationships, and pursuing purpose-driven goals, will be offered. The figure returning from solitude is not just a survivor, but a lighthouse, radiating a presence that inspires others to pause, reflect, and reconnect with their own inner truth. Chapter 7. Solitude as a practice, returning to the sanctuary even after the season of solitude shifts. It remains a practice, a sanctuary to which we return throughout life. Solitude is not a one-time event, but a recurring necessity, a space where we recalibrate and reconnect with ourselves. The world will always pull us outward, with its demands for attention, validation, and productivity. But those who have passed through the fire of solitude know how to return to the silence, not out of sadness, but out of reverence. This practice of solitude is a form of self-care, a way of honoring the inner work that continues throughout life. Growth is never finished. There will always be more to uncover, more to release, more to reclaim. By returning to solitude regularly through meditation, journaling, or quiet reflection, we maintain our connection to our authentic self, ensuring that we do not lose ourselves in the noise of the world. This chapter explores solitude as a lifelong practice, offering guidance on how to integrate moments of silence into daily life. We will examine the importance of maintaining a relationship with the self, the role of solitude in ongoing growth, and the ways in which it can become a source of strength and clarity. Practical exercises for cultivating solitudes, such as mindfulness practices, creative outlets, and retreats, will be provided, empowering readers to make solitude a sacred part of their journey. The figure who returns to solitude is not retreating, but renewing, finding in the silence a compass that points them back to what matters. Epilogue: the gift of solitude. Reunion with the self. The journey through solitude is not an escape from life, but a reunion with the self. It is a passage through fire, a stripping away of the false to reveal the true. The figure who emerges from solitude is not perfect, but whole, not free from pain, but no longer afraid of it. They carry a quiet strength, a rootedness born from their time in the wilderness of the psyche. They belong to themselves now, and from that place, everything changes. Jung's vision reminds us that solitude is not a punishment but a gift, a sacred fire that refines rather than destroys. It is an invitation to become who we were always meant to be, to live not as fragments but as whole, authentic selves. The ache of loneliness, the weight of silence, the fire of confrontation, these are not signs of failure but of preparation. A call to step into the crucible and emerge transformed. As we leave the wilderness of solitude, we carry its wisdom with us. We walk through the world differently, not separate from it, but not consumed by it either. We become lighthouses, steady and silent, radiating a presence that invites others to pause, to look inward, to heal. The gift of solitude is not just for us. It is for the world, a quiet light that shines in the darkness, guiding others toward their own truth. The alchemy of solitude is a lifelong journey, a process of becoming that never truly ends. Each moment of silence, each confrontation with the self, brings us closer to wholeness. And in that wholeness, we find not just peace, but purpose, a life lived not for approval, but for meaning, not for performance, but for truth. The figure who has passed through solitude stands tall, not because they have conquered the world, but because they have conquered themselves. And in that victory lies the greatest freedom of all.